Welcome to the Texas Metal Show. I'm your host, John fucking Winningham, and on this episode, we talk to Pyreship. So this month, apparently, we've decided to do 3 episodes, and the reason you're getting this badass Pyreship episode is because their debut album, The Liars Bend Low, comes out tomorrow, May 26th, on Black Bow Records. These guys have skyrocketed their way to one of my favorite local bands. They put on a heavy-hitting show that is fucking loud and a little bit slow. This is a really great interview. We connected with these guys right away when they walked into the studio, and we just talked about all sorts of shit. We talked a little bit about politics, which kind of breaks what we do on the show, but it was all super, super vague, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I do believe we made fun of Jesus a little bit, which is pretty normal for us to do. And also, we talked about fucking dead people, great fucking episode. How could you go wrong? You can grab a copy of Pyreship's debut album, The Liars Bend Low, via the Black Bow Records Bandcamp, or Pyreship's Big Cartel store. There you can pick up a copy on vinyl, which I highly suggest. 2 more things I want to touch real quick. First, apology, my voice is a little rough in this episode. I was getting over being sick, and you can kind of hear it. Also, for whatever reason, this episode ends kind of abruptly. I'm pretty fucking sure we had a better ending than that recorded, but I don't know what the fuck happened, so just a warning. Enjoy the show.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful.
I'm going to look at my show notes while we talk, because I don't think I'm going to trolling Facebook or anything. I can't even give Pyreship my entire thing. These guys suck. Why they made this kind of music, I don't even know. What do you guys consider? I'm kind of a genre guy. I like to put things in different areas. What would you guys consider yourself?
That article that KWC posted about Slowcore kind of hit me right at home.
I saw that. I didn't read it, but I saw it.
Well, I mean, it was like the lineage they go through in that article is my life.
Yeah.
I was real into like the real mellow slowcore. Like bands like Low were huge for me like 15, 20 years ago. And Ida also, which is like acoustic, harmonic, super slow, weird, like I don't know. And then it progressed into stuff like Calvin Walled City and shit like that, you know, and that's kind of
Grasshopper.
Yeah, that's kind of like the path that I took is that article. That's what when I read it, I was like, wow.
Yeah, anytime anyone asks us, you know, like what bands are you influenced by, it'd be easier for me to say like, you know, something like Cult of Luna, because I think that's more of a band that people will identify with in terms of hearing us. But you know, the band that always wants to kind of like jump out of my mouth is something like Codeine. You know, when people ask like, oh, well, what's something that influences you guys stylistically? Even though I know like Codeine is not something that, you know, people are going to readily identify with us, you know, that's...
I've never even heard of them.
I sort of like,
nice.
I sort of identify more with, you know, with sort of the slowcore movement just in terms of this band and, you know, this kind of the sound that comes out of us.
It's an interesting term.
I've always kind of like the association I've always made with us was like just post metal, because it's such a blanket term, and like so many people kind of recognize that, and a lot of people have told us we sound like, kind of remind them of like ISIS and stuff like that. So
yeah, post metal is something I haven't explored a whole lot. I've got a Fallujah album I really like, but I didn't like it at first. It certainly took some time to grow on me because it was so different, and the song structure is not what I was used to, and it's like they mix these melodic high guitars with these really harsh vocals. It was a real weird trip for me.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, I got Enemy of the Sun in 1994, and like that like I've always been into metal, and I did a lot of like emo stuff in the 90s.
We like jamming Sunny Day Real Estate and shit.
Yeah,
I got a couple of Sunny Day Real Estate records that fucking Diary and How It Feels to Be Something On, man. When I was like 13 years old, that shit was like, holy crap.
I mean, I was in a band that was signed to Deep Elm Records, so that was like my life in the 90s, and but like that all came from Neurosis, Christ on a Crutch. Do
you think he had a crutch because they jammed a spear into his side so he couldn't walk? Or they also broke his legs. It makes sense. He needed crutches, that poor bastard.
Yeah.
Romans were dicks, dude.
Yeah,
well, fuck yeah. Well, if you were a Roman citizen, they just cut your head off. You were afforded a easier, cleaner, quicker death. But man, if you weren't a Roman citizen up on the cross, well, actually, I kind of tend to lean more towards it was probably just a simple pike. It probably wasn't a cross, but that is historically debated. And I won't get into religion because we try to stay away from that. But as you can see from my house, it becomes a very interesting topic. And that in of itself was, this was all inflamed by a single neighbor stealing a very small, simple inverted cross, and then we went crazy.
We were walking up and we're like, so
which one
where is this place? Maybe the giant satanic flag.
Yeah, very easy to tell. So let's talk more specifically about Pyreship. I guess let's talk about a history of the band. I was made aware of you guys through Alexis and Brandon from Project Armageddon and Doomstress, and
awesome
they
people.
talked about you guys like you were like irreverent saints. They were like, Pyreship is so fucking good. And at this point, I never heard of you. I'd never listened to your music. Actually, up until I got a copy of The Liar's Ben Low at the First Church of Amplifier Worship, which we didn't catch your your set because we had made other arrangements to do the podcast in another part of town. Yeah, and that show started 2.5 hours late, which was a bit disappointing. Anyway, I had not heard of you guys, but the way they talked about you, like you guys made this fucking fantastic music, which now I understand you guys do make this absolutely fantastic, unique music. And this is something I've brought up a lot. We listen to a lot of metal bands, a lot of Texas metal bands. And so there are some Texas metal bands that make your straight up late 80s thrash, and that's all they do, and it's great and it sounds awesome, but they're certainly not breaking the mold. And then you have bands like you guys or Crimson Void, or I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but I know they're there, that are kind of like pushing boundaries. This is which I think is what we need. I think we need people to push boundaries and to make music. So anyway,
if you're going to bother to like, come to our show or, buy our record, pay money, to keep us going, essentially, I think we kind of, in a sense, owe it to you to, not give you something that you've heard.
Put out quality. You're going to want to put out quality. Yeah. So what's the history of you guys? How did you guys get together?
Originally, me, Sam, and Steve were in another band called Defending the Kingdom, and it was kind of starting to fizzle out, and so we started looking about, like, let's just start writing music and see what happens with that. And then things just kind of came to a head, and we ended up like, all right, now we have to be a whole new band. And so we started just writing new music, and Sam and Jay hooked up. Craigslist transaction, like buying speaker cabs.
This is like the 6th or 7th band we've talked to where Craigslist has been name dropped. It's amazing how many people have gotten together because they were on Craigslist or looking for equipment or looking for an actual band.
I bought 2 412s from him and noticed he was wearing an ISIS hoodie, and I was like, okay, this band has been paramount in my musical evolution. I need to talk to this dude. So,
Yeah, I feel the same way when I see like Blind Guardian shirts.
I sold him the cabs, and we talked for a little bit, but I figured like when he drove off, like, I really kind of talked that dude's ear off. He probably didn't ever want to hear from me again.
And now
he would like text me after that, like, just sort of intermittently, about like bands or various gear kind of shit, and I was like, oh, that dude's cool. So kind of just like kept up the dialogue that way.
I mean, even I got into defending the kingdom by responding to a Craigslist ad.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's kind of like we are the Craigslist band. Like half of us are
the Craig success story.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few actually. So if you're a young musician and you play guitar or whatever, and you're looking for a band, Craigslist is the fucking way to go. The Dirty Seeds, even those guys talked about using Craigslist to utilize band members and that kind of thing.
The key is like gear likeness.
Yeah.
You search the gear you like, you message that person. They're probably into the same kind of shit you are.
Yeah.
Because we're into pretty, mostly obscure, gear brands. So when you see something like that pop up, you're like,
How you
person, know what's up.
How you doing, girl?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, you kind of like with all like the orange amplifiers and that kind of stuff. When I see people with like orange stacks, I'm like, I could probably pinpoint 5 or 6 of the same bands we listen to that we enjoy, and I would almost guess that if I was like, hey, let's smoke this joint, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna be like, all right, come on, let's go.
Right.
Just kind of how that goes.
Exactly.
Get in the van.
Correlation is if they have orange amps, they
Like to get high, like to listen to stoner music. Well, I could kind of like, I could certainly smoke a bunch of weed and put y'all's record on and just go to town. Like it definitely, I don't know if this is blasphemous, and I don't see why it would be, but like I hear a lot of like when I was listening to it today on headphones when I was walking around, I felt a lot of like Alice in Chains in there for some reason.
A lot of people have said stuff like that. Like the PR guy for the record label, he was like, you guys are like Soundgarden meets King's X. And I was like, that's really funny because I grew up with one of the guys from King's X daughter, and Soundgarden is probably collectively a band we can all agree on.
Yeah.
Right.
know? So, and we're, us being a little older, that was our childhood, man. That was what was there, and influenced us all pretty greatly. In fact, I don't know if I should say it, but we're hopefully gonna cover 4th of July by Soundgarden, and it's definitely their heaviest, most brutal song they've done.
It's just dark.
It's really dark and amazing.
So you guys managed to be. Well, I've seen you live, so for the people listening to the show, you've gotten a little bit of a taste of the music because we play a little bit right before we get into it. But you guys are really fucking heavy, but at the same time, I mean, I wish I knew how to describe it. Like, you guys are so heavy, you guys. I think Yob is probably the only other band that's as loud as you guys are when you play that I've heard. But your music is incredibly heavy, but it also manages to be like really, for lack of a better term, like mellow. And man, I wish I knew how to describe it better. I'm at a loss of words right now for some reason.
I think probably, for guys our age, like, when you were getting to the point where, you maybe weren't listening to a lot of the, sort of mainstream rock and metal, and you're sort of like breaking out of the mold and, kind of getting into underground bands more and more, was sort of like the period when, like stoner metal doom was kind of like blowing up and getting huge. And so, I know that at least for me personally, like a lot of the bands that, sort of informed my, my development, as far as like what I wanted to do with a band, like just huge fucking, loud stacks were, just like the norm at the time. And I don't know if people are like moving away from that
That they shouldn't
lately.
be. I don't think they should be anymore.
I kind of feel like, you should sort of like feel the shit, in addition to seeing it. You
can feel it right here in the middle of your chest.
I mean, again, I sort of feel like in a live context, I owe you a certain experience, and that's part of that experience.
I agree. If I'm paying to see you, I own you guys. At least for that hour you're on stage. And I want to hear something good.
Yeah,
God damn it.
You're hiring us for an hour.
Yeah, you just want to take you on a journey. Like that's what it's all about. Like it's a vivid picture into our collective journey, even individually. But we come together and each one put our fingerprints on it.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. I want to be taken somewhere when I listen to a band. I do like to just rock out, and I love thrash, and I grew up on. I was a skateboarder, so thrash was like pretty much all I listened to, like DRI and JFA and all that stuff in the late '80s. But as I grew older and kind of figured out what I liked, I really liked the bands that painted a picture for me, that I could relate to and escape my reality momentarily.
Isn't that why we listen to music?
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember when I was 14 or 15, my stepmom died. And she died, like, randomly. Like, it wasn't like, she had cancer for 6 months and we all knew she was going to die. It was like, bring. Hey, what's up, Dad? How are you? Oh, I have bad news. Your stepmom died. And we were like, whoa, like, just crazy. I won't get crazy into the story, but I remember I'm from Washington. We were born just south of Seattle. I've been in Texas for 21 years. And we went to go see my dad. And, of course, he's all fucked up. The woman he's been married to forever is dead. And that's got to be hard to deal with. But I was listening to Blind Guardian and Night of the Opera a lot at that time. That album was brand new. I just really started to explore heavy metal. And, like, I love Blind Guardian. And I can remember, like, listening, like, being upset, being sad, and, like, listening to that record. And it just definitely took me away to somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Definitely made me feel better. And I guess that's why I don't understand a lot of this pop music. We've been doing this secret show that no one's heard yet called Drunk Top 40, where we get local metal musicians together and we smoke a lot of weed and we drink a lot of beer and we listen to top 40 songs. I can't imagine anyone listening to that music. It's horrible. It is so hard. No, the show's good, but listening to the top 40 is rough. I can't imagine anyone listening to that music being taken away to somewhere else. It just doesn't fucking make any sense to me.
Right now, Kendrick Lamar is in the top 40. And that's going to be easy to listen to for
I
me,
don't know who Kendrick Lamar is. So maybe when we do the next episode, maybe he'll be on there and I can kind of get a feel for
when
it.
Ghost won a Grammy, they went to party with him in the after party.
Yeah. They're all broken up now.
Yeah.
No. What do you guys feel about Ghost? You guys like Ghost at all?
Here's my thing, and it's
Is that the dude that dresses like a
satanic pope?
Yeah.
So my thing
Papa
is
Emeritus.
like, and it's not a popular opinion at all.
That's
Maybe
okay.
people are gonna hate our band for me saying this.
No,
But
I hope. Please don't hate them because
The
they have
music-
different opinions than you.
the music is anyways. The music is okay. It's not like, oh my god, amazing to me. And then you add the dude's vocals, and that just like completely like where you almost had me interested with the music. The vocals come in, and I'm like, okay, I'm out. Sorry.
Yeah, not for you, huh?
See, for me, like, they remind me of a band that I really, really like. And, I don't think they're supposed to, but there was a band in the 90s called Murder City Devils.
Yeah.
And they really sound like Murder City Devils to me. And, like, the music with the keyboards, for sure. I mean, the vocals maybe not, but that just like that rock and roll style, that Swedish rock and roll, like Helicopters, all that crap. That's what it reminds me of, and that played a big part in my musical evolution. Now, do I own any of this stuff? No, but I do find myself enjoying it from time to time.
I do love Murder City Devils.
Excuse me. Sorry,
But
everyone.
they're way more punkier. Like, to me, Murder City is like super punky, and I can see what you're saying. Where like if you replace that punk influence with like a sludge influence, yeah.
But in a live context, like they're obviously making a tremendous effort to like provide you with some kind of spectacle, something to enjoy.
I'm a huge Ghost fan. I've seen them live a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There's only one man who puts on a better live show than Ghost, and that's King Diamond.
Right on.
Hey, for me personally, they're the only the stage show is rival to King Diamond's because have you ever? I don't know if you guys are big King Diamond fans, but like
grew up on King Diamond.
yeah, it's
Celtic Frost,
it's
King
the
Diamond,
devil.
all that stuff.
Like I grew up in a Protestant Christian home who went to church 2-3 times a week, and I always hated it. And with Merciful Fate, King Diamond, and The Simpsons, because if you watch like the first 6 seasons of The Simpsons, and I'm sure this continues on into the series, they just rip into Christianity in the most brutal of ways. So I have to think when I was a kid, this must have helped me formulate my way to get out of there.
Right.
But yeah, when I first heard Ghost and like saw the imagery, and my older brother was like, "Hey, check out these songs on MySpace," because that point in time they had like Elizabeth and one other song on MySpace,
And
I
MySpace used to be a thing.
it's still no MySpace is still a thing, just no one uses it. I think Justin Timberlake bought it, and now it's for music. It's all for art and music now.
Yeah, for all you kids under 30, there used to be this website.
Yeah, MySpace. It was before we all used Facebook,
And
and before that it was LiveJournal.
and there was even one before that I had, and I can't remember
It
what
was
it was
like
called.
Facebook, but it was like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, it was
Real
I
sexy.
can't remember what it was, but yeah,
Live Journal.
I saw that that Ghost was on tour with Ullatec, and I'm a huge Ullatec fan, so.
They toured with Marissa Nadler when we saw them last, and Marissa Nadler's fucking amazing.
Right on.
She plays guitar and piano. It's a very strange mix of music to go see Marissa Nadler and then Ghost come out on stage, because they don't fit into any of the same
I
categories.
kind of
But
like shows like that where it's like
I do
mixed
too.
up, because
Well,
like
let's
where every band's the same. It's just like if you go to a grind show and there's like 6 grind bands, it's just like
How many blast beats can you handle?
yeah.
Oh, it's all of them. Well, when you came in, you pointed out the Northside Apocalypse show poster over there, which was a Doom Death show. And then I had kind of talked about, and this is something we've talked about on the show before, and anybody who's a regular listener, at least the 2 or 3 of you out there, like we want to do Texas Metal Show Presents Live. Like we want to start booking our own shows. We want to start bringing you guys and other people in to have our own shows. Well, for one, to push our own name, because obviously that's what it's all about. 2, we love you guys. We love local music. We go do lots of local shows. And 3, I think it would be really cool. Like it would be kind of cool to be like, I booked my own show, you know? It'd be kind of neat. That's the one thing we want to do, is break away from this. Like you go to a death show, you see like a death metal band and like sometimes a black and roll band, and then sometimes like a thrash black band, and then you go to a doom show and you see a bunch of doom bands, then you go to like a stoner show. I guess anyway, I get tired of that. I want to go see like a thrash band and a doom band, and then like a death metal band, and then like some power metal or
I couldn't
something.
agree with you more on that subject. I mean, when I was booking that First Church of Amplifier Worship, I really sought out more diverse bands, and I had a handful of bands. I feel like it was a fairly diverse lineup, but I had it even more diversified, but a bunch of the traveling bands had to cancel. So
Let me stop you there real quick. I want to go into the first song, and then I'm going to bring up that show again, because that was an interesting lineup. This one is Gravity off The Liars Bend Low by Pyreship. What is this song about? What does this mean to y'all?
To me, it's just it was, the lyrics were written around the political climate going on around us, and it's not taking any sides at all, just because I think it's all bullshit. I think all politicians are crooks on both sides. Yeah.
Certainly.
And so,
they most certainly are.
So, and it's just like, I believe that there's good within, obviously, because there's just good people out there, but it's just representative of the hate that people were showing each other, like how vile and aggressive people were on their stances, and I'll add that we all have fairly different political views, but it never caused any issues between any of us. We all respect each other enough to understand that whatever issues or topics come up, it affects us in different ways depending on where we've come from. Like for me, for instance, having kids and stuff like that, the actual topics at hand hit me different than they would a person with no kids and are single. So it's not, I'm not right. I'm choosing a path that may benefit my situation, as Steve would do his, or, George and Sam theirs, or whatever, and the hate that was going on. The song is about all the hate that I saw,
this particular last election, that was rough. Like, it was like
it
amped up
is.
to like fucking, it's still
it
pretty
still
bad.
is, and I'm like, holy crap, have you forgotten about, like...
Well, people just stopped communicating like decent human beings.
Right.
It's like, for some reason, I guess, because most people communicate through social media 90% of the time now anyways, it's like you can say whatever you want and there's no penalty because, you're not sitting there next to the person that can punch you in the face.
It's a lot easier to be a vicious dickhead when you're not face-to-face with
And is
someone.
punching people even appropriate? I mean,
Right.
should we be punching each other over political views? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes my coworkers say some things, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, if your mom was here, would she be okay with that? And if so, anyway.
Well, that's the whole thing. Have face-to-face dialogue. Like,
Right.
actually, be in the solution, and you don't have to agree to hug it out with a friend, Like,
Well, I mean, to me, it was almost more about, just like shrugging off control mechanisms, I guess. And a lot of that... a lot of the shit that was kind of like mind-blowing to me in terms of the last election was not, what's your viewpoint, but just like, why are people getting so worked up when, most people out there are just sort of, subscribing to this, pre-written dialogue that, people want you to think and want you to believe. And so, it's less about like the pure political view or what your viewpoint is, as opposed to like inform yourself and
Don't be a sheep.
Yeah, you don't.
No,
have
so,
to.
I really feel like we don't give enough credit to the sheep. You know how easy it is to be a sheep? When you're a sheep, you don't have to worry about shit, so I can kind of like, I can understand that mentality. But we don't like to talk about religion or politics. I think this is the longest political discussion I've ever had on the show without... And if you've noticed, we didn't have any sort. There was like no direct. Yeah, it was real vague. I like that. That's the best part.
And that's the lyrical content. It's more about awareness. We're not picking any sides. Like, it's all about being good to people, like being good to each other.
It's what we should all be doing.
Exactly. And there's, within our genre, there's a lot of dark arts and dark directions and ideas, and that's awesome, and the imagery I can really dig on, and some of that, and pull from it. But my, and I don't know if this is a collective thing, but my idea on the whole thing was like, there's nothing we can do within that hasn't been done, and we can't do it better. So let's take a different direction, with the same ideas, let's, because there's a way, I've lived a really dark personal hell, I like to focus on the lighter things, you know.
Well, can we talk about that a little bit? Is there anything you'd be willing to talk about?
I mean, you know,
because clearly, I think, and I apologize for interrupting, that obviously the experiences you've all had in life must directly be put into your music. I mean, it's got to be, right? Because your music is part of you. It's part of your personality. It might be part of your soul, if that exists, whatever you may be. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is like, you know, for a couple of us who choose not to, you know, drink and partake in drugs and stuff, and it isn't a choice that we've made because we think it's right or wrong. But like for me personally, you know, I you know, 7 years ago I was homeless, like completely homeless, you know, strung out on heroin, had nothing. I lost my family, had no contact with my son, my oldest son now. And, you know, it's all reflective of, like, when I see the imagery put within, you know, bands, I can understand the lore of that. But for me, I've lived such a dark hell that I like to focus on the things that can better my situation. And not that those things wouldn't do that or can't do that. It's just that my direction, because of my experience, comes from a loving standpoint. You know, I spent so many years hating people, hating everything, you know, music, thinking that my ideas were the only ideas that mattered. And as I went through that, through, you know, my late 20s and my 30s, I learned a lot about myself and humankind in general, and how cold things were when I was doing stuff like that. That I really realized that once I started to reach out in a more positive manner and stop living in the problem, that I actually started to feel personally better and get better responses from people, you know. So I mean, that was kind of that's what I pour into my, you know, 25% of the music, you know. So
I think all of us have had kind of hard and messed up lives through one thing or another. There was a period of time where, like, Sam broke his hand in a car wreck. Jason had some things going on with legal issues. Steve had stuff going on with work and his family, and I also had a bunch of crazy family stuff going on, and we were all just so stressed and like a bundle of nerves. And like, that was kind of when we were finishing writing a lot of the songs and recording them. And then once we started getting out and performing, like, you know, we could get up on stage, and I mean, we're not jumping around like Dillinger going crazy.
Certainly
but,
not.
You know, we're getting up there. Yeah, we're too old. But, you know, we
also don't try too hard.
Yeah.
Well, I saw y'all show a couple of weeks ago, and it sounded great. So clearly you're trying to an extent.
Well, we put everything into it. You know, nobody steps off a stage and it's just like feeling great, dry T-shirt. We get off, we're sweaty, we're tired. We left it all up there. Like, we always joke about loud therapy, like, being our thing, because, like, when we get together and we crank up and we play our music, we're able to just, like, let go of all the stress and bullshit and bad shit that's going on, and just kind of, like, it's like meditation for us.
Absolutely. That's the best way you can put it. It is completely therapeutic for us.
I think you need to hit stop. I can't imagine that this what else can we get into on this fucking interview? God damn, fellas. No, I like it. I agree. I think that for me, I use a lot, like, wouldn't say a good friend of mine, but a guy that I've known for a long time that's done a lot of my tattoos. They found him dead this morning. Oh. And he was sick. I'm not exactly sure with what. He had been sick for a while. Right. And he had always struggled with drugs and alcohol. Right. But, like, the first thing I did was put on one of his favorite Cradle of Filth songs, because I was like, man, I know he loves this shit. And I felt like we weren't super close, but it's like, fuck, man, like, I went to school with this guy. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He spent hours, like, drilling ink into my skin.
Yeah.
took forever to do tattoos. Great work, but like, goddamn, dude, you sit on that chair for Seth. If you're listening to this right now, fuck you. You know. So for me, it felt good. You know, it felt good to kind of have a release. And I got a little teary eyed. I'm not gonna lie, and it was just like, okay, man, like it's over and done with. So I think that for me personally, music is probably the best therapy that I have. Absolutely. Especially when I'm mad. Yeah. You put on some Amon Amarth and they're like talking about like burning people's villages down in the morning and stuff, and you're like, yes, now my anger can be dispersed in a different way. And
if you can't work through emotions listening to music, like what's the point of the music you're listening to?
Right. If you can't lose yourself, like we talked about earlier, if it doesn't take you to somewhere else, why the fuck does it even exist? Top 40 bands are making millions and millions of dollars. But is that what it's about? I mean, it would be nice to... Wouldn't it be nice to sell Pyreship records and be able to not have to work? Sure. You know, that'd be pretty cool. But let's go back. Let me go back to earlier. Let's talk about the first Church of Amplifier worship show, which had an amazing lineup, but started super late. What was up with that, man? Since you booked the show, correct?
Yeah, I put it all together. It kind of at last minute started to kind of fall apart lineup wise, because I tried to pull regional bands, you know, bands from Louisiana, you know, Oklahoma or wherever.
You guys got even Forming the Void on that one. Those guys are badass.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're really good friends of ours and probably one of my favorite bands right now. And I'm really proud of them and what they're accomplishing and their sincerity and honesty as people. But that aside, like, that's how I met James from Forming the Void, was through booking that whole thing. And I loved what they were doing. I loved that they kind of have a very traditional sound, but they do it in a way that nobody else, I feel like, is doing it, you know.
It's fresh.
I wish they were from Texas. Right. Like, because we have yet to branch out, and I know eventually one day for the Texas Metal Show we're gonna have to branch out and talk to other people from other states.
And it's a border city. So.
Yeah, we've been thinking about
like right
my mom's
there.
from Lafayette.
Yeah, we've been thinking about doing like a Like, you know, because we do Texas Metal Show, and then we do Texas Metal Radio, then there's like Southern Haze and Southern Brutality, right. And I was thinking about doing like a neighbors show, right. Where, because have you guys ever listened to Jethro Skull?
I've heard that.
Oh
name,
my God! If I can find the CD before y'all leave, I'll put it on. It is fucking.
There used to be a local band called Death Row Skull.
Yeah.
Where are you, Death Row Skull? Where are you? That sounds great. I can't imagine they were bad at all. Yeah, Louisiana certainly. Well, I love. Like, I'm a huge Down fan. I love Corrosion of Good Food. Let me name drop a bunch of the most obvious Louisiana band names there is. You know, Crowbar, all that kind of shit.
I Hate God.
Yeah, they're coming.
Yeah.
I don't know who's opening. Crusher's opening for them.
Yeah,
Crusher
is, and the only reason we were likely to get that show, but we're playing the same weekend on a Pegstar event, and they won't book you two events in the same weekend with the same band, so that was kind of, and we had already it's the Conan show, so it's the same weekend.
But it's not the same night.
No, it's the
good.
The I Hate God's on Saturday. The Conan show's on Memorial Day, which is that following Monday, the 29th, and we're actually playing at Rudyard's that Friday night with Forming the Void, which is the 26th, and it'll be the release of. It's not a record release show. It just happened to be on the day of our release, so it's Dirty Seeds, Forming the Void.
God, I love the Dirty Seeds. They're like some of our best friends. I love those guys.
They're all super nice guys.
Yeah, they really are. And Tomas has some. I want to get Tomas on the show one day again to just talk about music, because that motherfucker has some very interesting opinions.
Yeah, he was on the Tom Petty show last night.
Yeah, he was.
He was too.
Was good. How was the Tom Petty show last night?
Fucking rad. I took my daughter. It was her first concert, so we had a great time.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 9. And like all those like
what did she think?
Like rock and roll like flourishes where they do the big ending with the freaking drum rolls and the extended solos, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!"
That's all. What did she have like that big goofy grin on her face and like super excited?
Time,
that's awesome.
After every song, she's just like, "Whoa!"
My first, we're gonna get into the next song here in just a second. But my first concert I remember going to was God, his name is Michael, and I can't think of the rest of his name, but he was like a super famous like. Christian adult contemporary art. Michael W. Smith.
Oh, there you go.
I remember we were in Washington, so it was before we came here. My mom took us to like the big stadium dome or whatever the fuck it was. I don't know what it was. And we went and saw Michael W. Smith, and I thought it was so cool. Yeah. Now I can't even. God, I can't believe
I'm
that
intensely
happened.
bothered that like 3/4 of the band recognized that name.
Yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, we know Michael W. Smith. We love Christian music." All right, let's get into "Are We Dead Yet?"
A time comes when silence is betrayal. That time has come for us, even when pressed by the demands of inner truth. Men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in time of war. And I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
but to me, like, that's one of the most, like, that should be a metal song. Like, stealing a woman's body to, like, have one last, like, date with her dead body. That's a death metal song.
I wish I loved someone that much. I'm not certain there's anyone on this planet except for maybe my son that I would love that much.
Like, I mean, did he get that song written by, like, Cannibal Corpse or something?
He
just
called
on the
King
web?
Diamond. He was like, hey, look, I've been recently listening to Melissa, and we need to talk about writing a song about fucking dead women. Now, I don't know if that song, he goes into that detail, but I imagine if you are a human being and you are willing to take a corpse home with you, you're probably going to fuck it. Right? Right?
Everyone would assume you
Is
would.
that off base?
No, it's not
Okay,
not at
thank
all.
you. Are We Dead Yet? Let's talk about that song. What's this song about to you? To whomever. And then we're going to, you know what? After we talk about that, we're going to talk about writing process, because you talk about 25% of the band. There's 4 of you here. I'm kind of interested how you guys write song. But Are We Dead Yet? What's the song mean to y'all?
The 4th song?
That last.
Fifth.
Last song. Oh,
Come on, man.
yeah,
It's
dude.
your record.
Shit.
We call them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Like 4 or 5. I think that song, like I was going through a rough period at the time, and you know, I just had some fairly, I guess this was about a year ago, I had some fairly intense, like, interpersonal conflicts going on, and I just kind of wanted to, like, let go of a lot of the tension that I was feeling, a lot of the kind of anger that I was feeling with one person or another, and so, you know, I wrote the lyrics to be sort of like this super harsh, you know, kind of indictment of one single person. But, you know, it wasn't like an incitement necessarily. It was just sort of like, I want to scream this out so that I don't fucking have to deal with it in my day-to-day life. And, you know, it kind of works out because the song has, like, sort of this big, huge ending, and, you know, it's really sort of, it was kind of a cathartic experience for me. So I guess that was sort of like what the song is to me.
Yeah, that ending's cathartic for me every time we play it.
Yeah. Like, I feel like every time we play it, like, especially as big as we try and make the ending, and as much as we all just, like, pour into it, like, it almost feels like as soon as we stop, you know, you hit the last note, and it's almost like, you know, after a bomb goes off, that, like, stillness in the air for a second before everybody kind of is like, whoa.
Before they actually realize the song's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've found that, like, you know, especially, like, the ending that they're talking about, it gets so tribal and primal, like, it's the essence of everything that we are, you know, as humans, and you know, the evolution in spirit and everything that we have, and I love that, and it's so weird because we never set out to do any of that stuff. Just happens, and it happens in a lot of our songs, and I'm just like, this is completely, like, primal, and you know, almost like, I don't know, it's amazing to me.
I mean, just a couple of things about, like, the songwriting process in general. I mean, I've noticed with us, it's usually like, you know, we'll start off with an idea. Typically, a song won't finish, you know, the way that we expect it's going to, and we'll go through this process where, you know, everyone kind of collectively says, I think this is going to be cool, and then in the middle, we maybe played it a few times, and we're like, I hate this, and I don't ever want to play this again. And then, you know,
How often has that happened?
like with every song.
Every single song.
And
Process.
yeah, and then, you know, once we've got, like, a finished product, we're like, oh, this is actually something cool. You know, I'm really into this. But you know, Jason mentioned, like, you know, sort of tribal feel. You know, I know for me, we kind of, like, divvy the vocals up where Jason does most of the, you know, sort of, like, melodic stuff, and I'll do most of the, you know, shouting.
I love the mix, and I love when you guys do, like, the vocalizing harmonization, like, in the background of song. That is one of, I don't know what it is, That is one of my favorite fucking things any band can do. Like, Guar did it all the fucking time, and every time it happens, I'm like, yes, I love it. And then you guys throw that style into your music, too, and I feel the same fucking way. I don't know why, though. Like, I don't know what it is about just simple vocal harmonization that gets me. Because it's never, like, super intricate. It's just...
Jason's really good at that. I can, sort of pick up on it, and, I'll know, like, okay, these are the notes that I need to hit, but... he's usually good at like coming up with harmonies. I know that like just for me personally, I sort of respond more to, or I have more fun playing with like the rhythm of a vocal line. So just in terms of like that song in particular, that was kind of what I was doing, is sort of like, stretching different notes and. Just kind of like playing with the rhythm of the vocal line until I had something workable. But yeah, and some of the other songs like melody and harmony definitely play a stronger role. But.
It's a hard thing to do, to be melodic and not be not be dumb. Like it's a really hard and fine line to straddle. Yeah. Like it's very challenging. Like. You can completely take the most brutal sounding song and totally like make it, I don't know, like a teddy bear sounding stuff, and it's just a really hard thing to make it like a cohesive feeling. And I'm grateful to be playing with these guys because Sam makes it easy. He really does, like, because I have we've all been playing music, our whole lives, and when you've gone too far. You're just like, no. And I've never really had to face that writing vocally with Sam. Musically, I never have to worry about it. I know it's going to be completely brutal all the time. Even in the mellow, spaced out parts, it's still a completely brutal mental trip, but working vocally with him, like I've been in a bunch of bands and I've done a lot of recording with a lot of different people. I've been in the producer's seat, and it's never been easier than to work with Sam, for sure.
You guys work well together. Like you guys sound really great together. It's like you guys are like vocal soulmates.
I think overall though, like we all kind of view it, and you see things sometimes where musicians post stuff about, I love working with this person as my boss, and they're playing with a band, and for us the band, it's not, we're not hired guns. We're not like people that work for each other. Everyone feels like an equal.
So one of you's like not family. Frank Zappa, and the rest of you are just contract workers that he can get rid of whenever he wants.
Respect to Frank Zappa.
Oh no, definitely not trying to disrespect Zappa.
But I see a lot of people doing that, and I've made records on my own. I've wrote all the music for other people's records. And to me, that is the most soulless, empty fucking
That's what
thing.
Ghost just did.
Exactly.
Ghost just got Papa 3 just got rid of all those motherfuckers and then pulled in a bunch of other people.
Right. And I mean, I understand when you're maybe want to be theatric about it, and there's a different element to it. But on just a musical basis, like there's nothing more empty than And I speak from experience, and I'm not pointing it out. That like, oh, this band did that, and it was, it doesn't move me at all. It's just that I've lived that. I worked in studios for a long time, and for record labels, and I've experienced it too many times, and I'm very fortunate that there is no one person that rules anything in this band, and it's easy. There's not drama. I mean, like I've been in a zillion bands, as we probably all have, and there's always something.
Just stupid shit.
Yeah.
Well, some people just don't. some people just don't know how to deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can't always just be like, I'm upset because of A, B, and C, let's work on it. Sometimes that manifests in like, oh, you don't want to play my songs, or you constantly changing my riffs, or like you're always messing up with my lyrics, and like, you know, I could see how if you weren't okay with communicating how you felt. I mean, look at Metallica. I know, fucking Metallica, boo, everybody hates Metallica. For me, they were like one of my first bands, so they have a.
I think they're still rad as long as you just play the first record.
Well, I mean, that's just a Diamond Head record done by Metallica, so it's fucking good.
Well, I mean, it's like their first record, and then Bonded by Blood from Exodus, like those two.
Fuck.
I don't know if you guys have ever watched
that album.
Have you guys ever watched Some Kind of Monster? It's a good.
I have not.
It is a good film, and it really deals with interpersonal relationships that you build with your fellow band members. Now, of course, this is 20 years after they had been selling out stadiums and making millions of dollars. But I think that there is definitely an aspect of getting along with other people and being able to communicate who you are and what you want out of your music that some people just fucking can't do. I've never been in a band.
Well, I mean, it's the thing is George writes a decent amount of the lyrics as do Sam and I. Like song 3, those are all his lyrics.
We'll get the song title in the editing.
Yeah, we'll just dub my voice over it.
Right, and that I mean the reason we don't even really think about song names, and this is a side note. We don't think about song names because we're working on stringing the experience together, as a one whole cohesive piece of music.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what it's called. It just matters that it exists and it pushes a particular feeling.
I mean, if you see us live, there's no breaks in the set.
No, you guys just kind of go until it's over, and then when you're done, you're kind of shaking. Like, not you, but us in the crowd. We're like, holy shit.
We kind of play with noise a little bit between songs here and there. It depends on how we're feeling, but our thing is just to get up there and be a fucking force of nature, and then walk away and leave you guys kind of being like, shit.
And then you guys are really friendly afterwards. When like random dudes like me come up and talk to you about doing interviews, although we have already spoken on several occasions about doing an interview. Right. We're coming to the end of the show. We haven't talked about, is it Black Bow Records or is it just Black Bow?
It's Black Bow Records.
So you guys have recently signed with Black Bow Records, who have wonderful power hitters like Conan. Someone's got a Conan hoodie on.
Well, it's John from Conan's record label.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Slowmatics, Bast, Minsk, and it's. Forming the Void did their
Minsk
digital.
is on Black Bow.
They've released on Black Bow, and
finally
then,
made it.
Yeah,
finally.
And then Forming the Void put out their digital release with Black Bow.
Well, isn't that the goal? You get signed and you blow up. That doesn't happen anymore, though, right? That doesn't happen at all.
So, and his philosophy about it is like, okay, our very first show ever was with Conan. Like our very first show.
That's what? That's one of our questions we didn't ask, but that's good to know.
Yeah. So he remembered us. I was trying to contact him when I found they were coming back to the U.S. He was like, "Oh crap, have you guys recorded? And who's putting out your record?" And I was like, "Yes, we have recorded. We haven't really thought much about it. Nobody knows."
So I'm sorry. Let me get the timeline right here. So your first show ever, you play with Conan,
right?
Yeah,
and
Serial Hawk.
Oh, Serial Hawk is so good. Washington represent. I do believe they're from Washington.
Absolutely,
I have one of their records. We saw them at Rudyard some odd month. It's been a while, actually. Thank you very much for listening to the show. Thank you very much to Pyreship for being on the show. If you see these guys on tour or you see that they're coming to your city, go see them. They put on a fucking fantastically loud show. Independent Music Festival 2 is here. On October 21st in Old Town Spring, you're going to be able to see Dead Meadow, Elder, Mothership, Greenbeard, Switchblade Jesus, Funeral Horse, Warlung, Jody Seabody and the Whirls, and so many more. But this year, they've added a second date. October 22nd at Walters Downtown in Houston, you're going to be able to check out The Well, Doomstress, Amplified Heat, Crip Trip, White Dog, Stone Machine Electric, and fucking so many other great bands. Make sure you check it out. Check your show notes. Click the link. buy some fucking tickets. Come say hi to Texas Metal Show because you know we're going to fucking be there. This is going to be one of the best festivals that comes to Houston this year. You're not going to want to miss out. Tobin, Dar, N-Tip Entertainment, you guys kick some serious ass. Let me tell you a little bit about Brash Brewing. Not only do they make some of the best craft beer in Texas, they are the only heavy metal brewery that I'm aware of. They're big supporters of the local scene. They're big supporters of the Texas Metal Show. They have badass food trucks at their location, and they have a giant selection of awesome arcade games. Check them out at 508 West Cross Timbers Road, Houston, Texas. If you have any questions, comments, hate mail, or you'd like your band featured on the show, send us an email to texasmetalshow@gmail.com. And as always, go out and support your local scene, you motherfuckers.